Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mind Muscle Connection podcast. Today is a solo episode, and I have a topic I want to dive into that I see a lot. But first, before I do that, if you have missed the last couple episodes, my performance recomp method coaching program is now open for enrollment. So again, this is my high point one-on-one coaching program designed to get you to actually see the change that you want to see in your physique. It shows off your hard work that you're putting in. It helps you perform better in and out of the gym. And lastly, you feel good in the process, right? We're also focused on health. So again, if you're interested in that, just reach out to me on Instagram. Let me know if you have any questions. And then if you want to set up a call, we can chat there. The link to that is in the show notes. So what I want to talk about today is a topic that is going to tie into the performance recomp method and just what I commonly see, right? With clients, people that I reach out, people that I talk to on Instagram, and just in general. And so again, this is for the person who's doing everything right on paper, right? You're eating clean, training hard, you're tracking macros, but you're still not getting the results that you want to see. And maybe you don't feel good in the process. Maybe you're just tired of not feeling great during this and feeling like you need to go beyond exhaustion and push yourself into the ground in order to see any change, right? So again, I see this all the time with clients. And like I said, people that I just talk to regularly on social media, good intentions, a ton of effort, but their body's just not responding. And it's not because they're lazy or anything like that. It's not a motivation issue. It's not a discipline issue. Because their physiology is just not in a spot where it wants to change. They're just throwing a lot of output on everything, and their physiology is just more in a spot to recover and is focusing more on that versus actually changing and adapting. And again, that's what I want to mainly talk about today is, okay, so what are these things that people do that get their physiology to a point where it doesn't want to change, but it is more focused on recovery? And how can we set you up to where you actually get in that space where you're going to set your physiology up to be more receptive to change? That's the big thing that I work on in the performance recomp method is getting your body in that spot to where it's ready to change. You're going to have more efficient, effective fat loss. You're going to have more efficient, effective muscle gain. And again, I see a lot of people that physiology is not in a good spot and they have to work extra hard to see little results. That's a terrible spot to be in. And there comes a point in your journey, and this is the type of person I'm talking about today, where it's no longer about necessarily doing more. Okay. It's about setting your body up to actually respond to the work that you're doing. So again, it's that weird conundrum that people get themselves in where, well, again, initially when you first started, it was like, hey, yeah, you definitely need to do more. You probably want to train more than one day a week. You probably want to get more than 4,000 steps a day. You probably want to track a bit more. But again, unfortunately, people think that from there, it's continuing to do more and more. And that's where they get to the spot where their body just doesn't want to respond. Again, it's more focused on recovery. And again, that's where most people end up falling short. And they just keep pushing more and more on, right? So again, we're talking people that are doing workouts 5+ times a week. It's high intensity, it's boot camp style. You're just really pushing your training. Maybe it's, hey, I'm doing way more training volume in my lifting. You're walking 12, 15,000 plus steps a day. You're eating clean, right? You're not eating what you would call processed foods or dirty foods or whatever. You're eating clean day in and day out. You're hitting your macros. You've been tracking in MyFitnessPal for years. You're hitting that day in and day out. You have some meals here and there where you don't, but you still don't feel good. You feel exhausted. You feel stuck. You're not seeing the change that you want to see. And again, it's not a motivation issue. It's a physiology issue, like I talked about. Your stress load is just through the roof and your body doesn't have what it needs to adapt. And so again, I've been talking a lot about this concept of inputs and outputs and people having this high output, right? This type of person that I'm describing has a high output. That's what they're focused on. They're focused on more output, but we need to also get those inputs dialed in, right? Again, if you're constantly in a deficit, your sleep is trash, your food's technically clean, maybe you're eating a lot of protein type R's, processed type health foods. But again, it's like low in nutrients. Or again, your diet's, you're tracking, but your diet's low in nutrients. If you're stressed out all the time, it's not going to matter how hard you train. Your body can't rebuild, recover, or grow in that process. It's not going to want to change. Again, when you first start, these are all going to be things that are going to be helpful, right? Like training more, eating clean, changing up your diet, pushing a calorie deficit. But the problem comes when we keep trying to keep our foot on that gas pedal there with that. Again, you're going to need things like enough quality calories and protein, right? So this is going to be the right amount of calories for what your current goal is, what your current body comp is, and just what your needs are, right? And so again, if it's just, oh, hey, I'm eating clean, I eat chicken, broccoli, and rice, or I eat chicken and broccoli, I don't eat carbs, or whatever you say there. Again, we want to make sure our quality of food is there, right? We have a nice diversity. We're not just relying on protein powder, protein bars. Again, it's good to use those things, but we want to be careful with that all the time, right? And again, we need to make sure that you're eating the right amount for your goal. So this is where I talk about the calorie deficit. Again, you're going to need to get into a calorie deficit at some point, but if that's where you're at, all the time, that's where we can run into some issues, right? Or if you're someone who's trying to eat in a surplus and maybe for you, that's just not the right place to be at right now. Again, we want to make sure that that is in check there. And then we're also looking at your micronutrients. So making sure that you're not, and this can come through supplementation and diet, right? Like ideally we would get a lot of it through diet, but we're also looking at potentially supplementing with certain vitamins and minerals to help round out your diet. And again, I see this a lot where people track their calories and macros. They do a great job with that, but then they are just lacking diversity in their diet, but also micronutrients that they need. Again, they're trying to eat things like keep their diet as tasty as possible and try to eat as tasty of things without focusing on diet quality and making sure you're getting a nice blend of vitamins and minerals. And then also you need things like sleep and circadian rhythm support. Again, we're not just looking at, hey, I'm in bed for 8 hours. It's, hey, what are you doing throughout the day to make sure that you're setting yourself up for good sleep? Are you getting the most quality sleep that you could get? And again, a lot of people overlook that, right? It's just a number thing. Oh, I sleep 8 hours. Okay, that's great. What does that sleep look like? I sleep good. I slept from, it's okay. So you're telling me you're sleeping good because you slept from, and again, that could be a good sign. We definitely want to make sure we get enough sleep, but we also need to make sure that quality's there and we're setting ourselves up for good sleep. I feel like sleep's a tricky one because that's a one where people, when you're not getting good quality sleep, that kind of becomes like your baseline and that's where you come from, right? It's, oh, I sleep fine. I don't feel bad, but I don't think you realize how good you could feel. So again, we want to make sure your circadian rhythm is supported, right? We want to find ways to provide the right stressors, but we also need to make sure we dial back on unnecessary ones. So again, poor sleep, poor circadian health, that's going to be a stressor on the body. Again, people don't realize that. We want to dial back on that. Unnecessary stressors are also things that you just do that just provide unnecessary stress. Maybe you're getting stressed about certain work things when, again, can we potentially dial that back? So again, people have a lot of stress on their body and they don't really realize it. But again, it's not also saying we don't want any stress. We do want some stress. It's finding ways to provide the right stressors for that person. So again, it's not no stress, it's the right stress on there. So again, this is going to be something that if that's not there, you could be training hard, eating clean, and your body's not going to be in the best spot to respond. So we need to manage our overall stress load on the body. And we also need things like strategic training. So we're not just training 6-7 days a week where we're just trying to burn as many calories as possible, right? We're strategic with what we're doing. We're doing some weight training to help build muscle, but within that, we're not just hammering away volume and just doing a bunch of stuff there's a purpose within it. Also, one thing that I think is most people are missing out on is the right conditioning. And again, we're talking about this blend of doing some aerobic conditioning, maybe a little bit of HIIT, but we're not just doing HIIT. We're not just doing high intensity training all the time. We're getting in a little bit of this longer distance, slower kind of pace. And that's where I feel like, again, this kind of avatar misses out on that because it's always go do more and more intensity. And so again, we need to be strategic. We need to be strategic with how much volume we do, how efficient we are with that volume. So getting that dialed in, not just training harder to train harder. Maybe we're not always going to failure every single time we train. The first couple weeks of a training cycle, we're keeping a couple reps in the tank there. Because again, if we're just hammering away at the training and we aren't getting enough quality calories, we're not getting enough protein, our sleep and circadian, we have too much stress overall, too much unnecessary stress. It's just going to be hard to adapt. Your body's not going to be in a good position to want to adapt and change at that point. And then the other big one's going to be, we want time outside of a calorie deficit. Okay. That's the other thing here that we need to focus on. And again, if somebody's not where they want to be, they think that, hey, I need to just keep being in a deficit. So we need time out of a deficit to rebuild muscle and to just put our body in the best position to improve overall metabolic health, improve overall hormonal health. Just that's where your body's going to feel best. We're feeling enough in that process, but we're also focusing on these things that I talked about. We're getting enough quality calories and protein because we can also, outside of a deficit, we can also overdo it. And yeah, you're eating enough calories, but you're also nutrient deficient if you're not focused on a good quality balanced diet as well too. So that is part of it. But the key thing being, hey, we're not always just trying to push a calorie deficit. We need to take some time out of it for these things to build muscle, not necessarily rebuild it, but to build it. And again, that's where your body's just going to be in the best position to focus on overall health and just be in the best spot to, I don't like this word, but this is the one that comes to mind, is just thrive. But again, we can still, within that, we still need to focus on our inputs though, because we could be eating the right amount of calories, but if we're doing the things that I talked about, we can still run into some issues. And so that's really when we can take time to do all these things, focus on improving your diet quality, making sure you're getting enough protein, we're getting in enough micronutrients, your sleep and circadian rhythm is supported. We're finding ways to provide the right stressors, but dialing back on unnecessary ones and making sure that the overall stress level on the body is not too high. We're strategic with our training. and then we're also taking time away from trying to drop weight and trying to drop body fat, you're going to be in a good position to make change. Now, this is where you could do this for a little while. You're out of a deficit and then you go back into a deficit and you're doing these things. You continue to work on these things. Now your body's going to be more receptive to change. But again, you can run yourself back into this if you do this for 6 months and then you go back and then you just try to, again, keep just more output. Then you'll run yourself into the same boat that you were in before. So we need to be careful with that. I want to bring up a couple clients here. So my client, Luke, when he came to me, he was in great shape. He looked good, right? But he wasn't feeling as good as he could. And then he was just very focused on just the training side of things. So we dove into his nutrition, but we were also looking at overall food quality. He was experiencing some gut issues. He had some digestion that wasn't the greatest from time to time. Sleep was not great. And so we focused on these things outside of the gym. And he's someone who had a great physique. And we took his physique to the next level by focusing on these things. He would have been someone that he would have looked good no matter what. But in terms of how he felt, maybe it wasn't the greatest. And he still had a little bit more room to continue to build, right? Whereas a lot of people would have thought, hey, I'm at the max where I'm not going to be able to grow anymore, or I'm not going to be able to make any more progress. And by focusing on these things outside of the gym, that really helped him there. And then my client, Jen, she suffered from some migraines. Again, she wasn't feeling the greatest in terms of how she felt. Her body just wasn't responding the way she wanted it to. So just want to go over a few things she said. So she said at the end of our coaching, I'm a much happier version of myself when I'm feeling strong, recovered, and well-fueled. The energy I used to spend fighting migraines and burnout now goes into myself and my family. Again, when she started, she was lifting, tracking macros, but despite all that effort, she felt stuck, tired, stiff, fighting migraines, just was constantly drained. And she thought 1,800 calories were her maintenance calories, and she believed pushing harder was really the only solution there, right? And so again, with her, we got her calories from 1,800 to 2,300 while looking and performing better. Her weight is about the same as well too. Migraine, stiffness, and burnout, all gone. She's stronger, leaner, and lifting more than ever. Recovery improved, energy skyrocketed, and her mood completely changed. And she also was dealing with some knee issue where she had to surgically repair knee before working with me. And she was finally able to move it pain-free and able to do exercises she didn't think she'd be able to do again, like lunges and stuff like that. But again, the biggest one for her was really having the energy back to enjoy life with her family. Again, no longer drained, fighting through the day in migraines or pushing past fatigue caused by overtraining, poor sleep, and underfueling. Again, for her, in overall, this is what she said specifically, an overall improvement in my health, well-being, physique, and hands-on knowledge in regards to build phases. The uptick in my overall well-being was both unexpected and had the biggest impact on me. I'm a much happier version of myself when I'm feeling strong, recovered, and well-fueled. The energy usually spent on fighting through migraines and feeling burnout now gets to go into myself and my household, allowing me to enjoy the day with them. And again, this is all because we focused on all those things outside the gym. Sorry, I had another kind of quote too from her from the nutrition standpoint. The nutrition guidance was such a help as you really walked me through how to eat accordingly to wellness and goals. And I'm looking at my gaps. We improved my day-to-day energy and figured out which migraine triggers were in my control. I feel like I have a concrete understanding of fueling via macros and micronutrients, and I'm confident that I can use that information going forward as I attack goals. So again, just taking that deeper, going a layer deeper with things versus, hey, just training harder. So for Jen, it was, again, stress management, strategic supplementation, dialing in her food log and overall diet quality, but also sleep too, right? Working on that. I know for her, she specifically struggled with, like one thing we had to work on is it wasn't necessarily the hours of sleep as I talked about earlier. It was more so she wasn't in a good wind down routine. So she would just do things up until she went to bed and then she went straight to bed, right? So for her, we figured out what was the big thing that was causing her to not get that deep quality sleep. And it was, hey, you're not getting that time to wind down. So again, we dove into those things there and she changed her physique without really having to change her body weight. And again, that's a similar thing with Luke, right? Where he did have to gain a little bit of weight, but he saw a lot of change in his physique because he really focused on these things outside of the gym versus just training harder and just tracking macros. And so again, that's exactly what I'm trying to do in the performance recap method. We're focused again on you, physique that looks the part that you want it to. Again, performance in and out of the gym. We're not just focused on performance in the gym. That is important. We want to make sure we're fueled for that. We're making sure that's well, but we also want to make sure you're performing well outside of the gym. And then again, we need health. Like we need to make sure your health outside of the gym is in a good spot or just overall health. And that's going to allow us to perform better and improve our body composition. And so again, I do that with 5 pillars, strategic training. So again, whatever that is for you, we make sure your training is geared towards what your needs are. Again, a lot of people, it's going to be obviously hypertrophy style training. And again, actually training in a way that's going to help you build muscle, not just going in there and just doing a bunch of stuff. You're actually progressive and strategic. And then conditioning, right? Making sure we throw in some conditioning. So this is going to be, again, for some people, a little bit maybe more longer, slower distance type stuff. Think 45, 60 minutes. For some people, hey, it's just, maybe it is adding in a higher intensity session, but we're going to try to touch base on we're going to do a lower intensity, a medium intensity, and a higher intensity But again, making sure we're not just there's a purpose with it, right? We're not just doing it to burn calories. And then we're going to strategic nutrition, right? So again, this is going to be based on your body composition. It's going to be based on your goals and your skills. And we're going to make sure that's in the right place. We're going to make sure you're fueling for your goals, for your body composition. Because again, some people misapply deficits, surpluses, maintenance when, again, they don't need one of those, or it's just, again, they misapply which one they need based on their body comp, where they're at, where they want to go. And again, obviously looking over micronutrients, as I talked about, making sure that, yes, we're in line with our macros and calories, but we're also not just looking at those. We're going a layer deeper than that. And then movement. We're trying to build an active lifestyle because that's really going to be great for overall health and physique purposes. So again, it kind of kills multiple birds with one stone there. So we want to build an active lifestyle. That's pillar 3. Pillar 4 is your lifestyle. So I talked a lot about stress management, sleep, circadian rhythm. Again, we're looking into that. We're seeing what your limiting factors are there. And we're going to work on those to, again, put your body in the best position to adapt and change. And then lastly, the mindset. I've seen this happen many times where people have the first 4 done, but then their mindset is just dog shit and that holds them back. So we need to make sure your mindset's in the right spot, right? We're trying to build a growth mindset. We're trying to learn how to deal with setbacks, how to deal with failures. And again, these are crucial skills that we need to learn if we want to keep this, to actually see the results that we want to see, but then also keep it long-term. So again, that's how we do this. That's the main pillars that we work within in the performance recomp method. Again, I think the big takeaway from this episode is if you're already doing all these things and you feel like you're doing everything, it really is going to come down to one of these things being off. And ultimately your physiology is just not in the spot where it wants to change and adapt. And so we need to get you to that point. And that's why I focus on the 5 pillars. Again, these are some common things that I see. If you're interested in this, again, you can fill out the call link in the show notes. Again, we can hop on a call, chat about this program in more detail, see if it's right for you, or just reach out to me on Instagram and shoot me a message there and let me know you're interested and we can talk about it there. So hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if you guys have any questions and I'll talk to you soon.